For years, local boards of education across Connecticut have been asked to do the impossible. We are legally required to provide every child with an adequate and equitable public education. That includes complying with federal civil rights law, special education mandates, protections for multilingual learners, transportation requirements, and health and safety standards. These are not optional programs. They are binding legal obligations. And yet, year after year, the funding necessary to meet those responsibilities is denied. Under Article 8, Section 1 of the Connecticut Constitution, the responsibility to provide free public education does not belong to municipalities. It belongs to the state of Connecticut. Local boards of education are not independent political entities. We are statutory agents of the state, charged with exercising professional educational judgment on its behalf. That distinction is critical, because when funding is insufficient and students are harmed, the failure is not local. It is structural. Boards are legally prohibited from spending beyond what is appropriated. But fiscal limits do not erase constitutional rights. Boards are not required to normalize harm, we are not required to pretend that cuts do not hurt children, and we're not required to recommend reductions that we know will violate student rights, undermine educational adequacy, or place districts out of compliance with state or federal law. Yet that is exactly the position local boards are being pushed into. When services are cut, when class sizes climb, when special education timelines are missed, when safety is compromised, and when vulnerable students lose essential support, it is local boards that are blamed. It is local governance that is criticized, publicly attacked, or taken over, even though local boards lack the authority to fix the underlying funding gap. In effect, boards become scapegoats for a system designed to push responsibility downward while control and funding decisions remain at the state level. This resolution exists to bring honesty back into the system. It does not authorize deficit spending. It does not challenge budget law. It does not defy fiscal controls. What it does is far more fundamental. It asks boards to exercise their professional judgment and formally determine whether current funding levels are sufficient to meet legal and constitutional obligations. And if they are not, it allows boards to say so, clearly, lawfully, and on the public record. That matters because silence has consequences. When underfunding is normalized, the state can claim ignorance. When boards quietly absorb harm, the narrative becomes one of local failure rather than state responsibility. But when boards document educational insufficiency, collectively and consistently, the truth becomes unavoidable. No single board should have to stand alone. When one board speaks, it can be dismissed. When many boards speak together, urban, suburban, and rural, the issue stops being political and becomes structural. Coalition action changes the balance of power. It forces alignment between what the state mandates, what the state funds, and what the state is accountable for delivering. The state cannot mandate services, cap funding, intervene in districts, and disclaim responsibility all at the same time. This moment is not ambiguous. The law is clear. Article 8 of the Connecticut Constitution does not suggest that the state provide public education. It commands it. Federal civil rights law does not recommend equity. It requires it. Special education law does not tolerate delay or denial. It mandates compliance. When funding is knowingly insufficient, when harm is foreseeable, and when needs are documented, inaction becomes a choice, and choices carry legal and moral consequences. This is the line between stewardship and complicity. Morally, we cannot look at a child and explain away deprivation as a budget problem. We cannot ask educators to carry out mandates without means. We cannot accept a system that funds education just well enough to survive lawsuits, but not well enough to honor children's dignity or potential. And legally, we are not permitted to pretend that constitutional rights disappear when they become inconvenient. Boards of education were not created to provide political cover. We were created to exercise professional judgment in the interest of children and the state itself. This resolution is the lawful expression of that judgment. By adopting it together, boards across Connecticut are not defying the system, they are correcting it. They are restoring alignment between law, funding, and responsibility. They are stating, clearly and on the record, that educational harm is not an acceptable byproduct of governance.
Boards of Education of Connecticut unite. Our kids are worth it.